Picture this. It is a suffocatingly hot afternoon in 1512. You are standing in the very middle of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. There's an overwhelming historical weight of absolute Catholic authority. You look up. Right there, staring down at you from the cracked plaster, is Michelangelo's Delphic Sibyl. She is a classical prophetess. She is fully clothed in heavy, draped robes. She projects a flawless vision of divine inspiration and grace. But hold on. Look closer at her arms. Those are the arms of a heavyweight, bare-knuckle boxer. They are massive, imposing, and undeniably brutal. Her biceps are practically bursting through the delicate fabric of her mantle. She has the sheer physical build to snap a fully grown man's spine over her knee without breaking a sweat. And suddenly, a jarring realization hits you. You've been looking at classical Renaissance art your entire life. You've walked blindly through grand museums, stared blankly at expensive prints, and nodded along to incredibly boring audio guides. But you've never actually stopped to notice this incredibly bizarre, entirely obvious gender-bending detail hiding in plain sight. These artists operated under the strict, watchful, and highly paranoid eye of the Renaissance Church. A single misplaced shadow or a slight mistake carried the risk of rapid accusations of heresy. The stakes were terrifyingly high. Reputations, commissions, and sometimes literal lives were on the line. They calculated every single brushstroke. They planned every bulging deltoid. So, why are women painted muscular in classical paintings? The answer is deeply unsettling. And to understand it, we have to look past the ceiling. We need to completely forget our modern understanding of biology. To grasp this, we have to recognize that the Renaissance possessed a wildly different concept of gender boundaries than we do today. During this era, there was only one recognized canonical body in existence, and that body was male. Female bodies were viewed as imperfect, entirely incomplete versions of the male form. This deep-seated belief seeped into every single corner of visual culture. If an artist needed to paint an angel, they would strip away distinct characteristics entirely. Angels would be painted androgynous to clearly indicate their absolute lack of a bodily autonomy, encouraging that same piousness in the viewer. This is the absolute core of the mystery. When a Renaissance artist needed to paint a human woman, they looked at a man. Let us jump forward a bit to Michelangelo's Medici Chapel in Florence. Look at his famous marble sculpture, Night. She is a reclining woman with an elongated chest and a stomach that looks like a shapeless trunk cut across with deep, horizontal furrows. Her visible knee is sharply angular and highly masculine. Her muscles are tight, taut, and visibly stringy. Her chest looks like strange, artificial appendages awkwardly glued onto a male torso. Why does she look like this? Because her anatomy and proportions were drawn straight from a male model. We have the historical receipts. The preparatory drawing for this exact statue, currently sitting in London, literally proves he used a male model. He looked at a muscular man, sketched him out in exhaustive detail, and then casually tacked on female traits as an afterthought. It feels entirely lazy. You might assume he could not be bothered to find a female model, or perhaps he simply ignored anatomical accuracy. And that is exactly what I thought too. But wait. This points to a deeply intense philosophical obsession. The Renaissance was defined by a massive revival of classical learning. Along with unearthing Greco-Roman statues, they dug up Platonic philosophy and became incredibly obsessed with the myth of the androgyne. This was the classical belief in an original human form where both genders were perfectly joined together in a single body. They genuinely believed that merging male and female traits was the absolute pinnacle of human grace. The philosopher Marsilio Ficino openly stated that women who possess a masculine character easily attract men. In 1525, a follower named Mario Equicola took it a step further. He nodded that the manly female and the effeminate male are graceful in almost every single aspect, a concept visible across several major works. Caravaggio's Saint Matthew features an overtly feminine angel, blurring the lines of religious aesthetic life. Leonardo da Vinci's famously unconventional Saint John the Baptist exhibits gentle shadows and an androgynous effect. Donatello's bronze David presents a young boy with a lissom, elegant quality entirely stripped of the muscular development needed to defeat Goliath. This brings us to the ultimate tastemakers of the era, Pietro Aretino and Lodovico Dolce. Aretino observed copies of Michelangelo's works, specifically Leda and the Swan and Venus reclining with Cupid. Aretino absolutely gushed over Venus. Why? Because the brilliant artist made her with the body of a female, but the heavy muscles of a male. Aretino praised this bizarre combination, calling it an elegant vivacity of artifice. Meanwhile, Dolce praised the Venetian painter Titian for doing the exact opposite. He loved Titian's painting of Adonis because the hero possessed a graceful beauty that, while partaking of the feminine, did not detract from his masculinity. Dolce wrote that in a woman there should be something of the man, and in a man, something of the beautiful woman. The entire educated elite loved it. In their highly patriarchal classical heritage, heroic roles were strictly reserved for male characters. To give a female figure spiritual preeminence or heroic stature, artists felt they had to strip away her traditional femininity. By giving a Sibyl or a goddess the physical attributes of a man, she was elevated to the superior, heroic realm of prophets. They masculinized these women because it was the only way they knew how to make them heroes. And that is when I realized. We have only been looking at this mystery through the highly distorted lens of male artists. But what happens when an actual woman picks up the paintbrush? Artemisia Gentileschi. She was an absolute force of nature in the Baroque era. She established a completely different set of rules for classical painting. I've actually just recently made an entire video dedicated to her. Feel free to check it out. Gentileschi completely ignored the philosophical posturing of the men around her. She threw out the absurd man with breasts ideal. Look closely at Gentileschi's terrifying masterpiece, Judith slaying Holofernes. Judith is committing a visceral act. She is actively sawing through a warlord's neck with a heavy sword. But look at her arms. Look at her build. She is undeniably, realistically female. Her female musculature is grounded in harsh reality, informed by Gentileschi's own very real experiences as a woman. She is using leverage, body weight, and realistic physical effort to commit this act. The physical exertion is palpable and raw. The male artists of the Renaissance painted women as muscular giants because they were terrified of actual female power. They masked it in masculinity to make it palatable for their elite patrons. Gentileschi, armed with nothing but oil paint and sheer defiance, ripped the mask entirely off. If all this talk of hidden historical details has made you want to study these masterpieces up close, you're in luck. You can get museum-quality reproductions of famous classical masterpieces at viewcrypt.com. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.